So today I'm going to talk about socialism. Winston Churchill once said, "Socialism is the philosophy of failure, the creed of ignorance, and the gospel of envy." What he was meaning by this is that socialism is a form of government built on a lie. On paper, socialism works. However, in real life, it will never work, and it will always lead to the downfall of the country. Now I'm going to give you a little background information on socialism. Now, I pulled a little bit off of Wikipedia on Karl Marx because I just haven't studied the guy. He was a Jew born in Germany in the early 1800s. He went to school in Berlin where he studied law and philosophy. Now, he didn't like Christianity. He was very critical of it. He also hated capitalists and capitalism and wrote books about it, which later on led to the Communist Manifesto being written. He was so far left-leaning to the point that he was radical, even to the point of saying, "The last capitalist we hang shall be the one who sold us the rope." So, where Karl Marx left this Communist Manifesto, nobody really picked it up through the middle of the 1800s and stuff, mainly because you had the Civil War going on, War of 1812, some of the stuff going on between these hierarchy countries that still were ruled by kings and queens. Well, comes around World War I happens. World War I leads to the fact that it was one nation and a king versus another nation and a king that then brought everybody else into it. And that's why it's called World War I. Well, after World War I, after Russia defeated Germany in the First World War, Russia was very beat down, and so Stalin was able to grab power and lead in his ideology, which was the communism, which was based off of Marx's teachings on communism, and so he taught on communism and really engaged it into the 20th century. So Russia adopted communism after the First World War. They ruled through power and violence. Basically, if you said anything that Stalin didn't like, or any of his people that they didn't like, he'd kill you. He killed. So while the government seized power, yes, people were made equal, but at the cost of their individual being. Meaning, you worked, and yeah, there was some free stuff given, but it wasn't stuff that you would consider was great. There were food lines, different things like that. After World War II, after the Allies had won, the spread of communism happened, and that's where the Cold War happened. But it was from that it led into the Eastern European countries that Russia took over at the end of World War II. They also spread their beliefs to South Asia, like Korea, Vietnam, China, and some of the Germans that had escaped, which at the time were the Nazis, and the Nazis were socialists as well. When they escaped to Central and South America, they brought that ideology with them, and that's why now you've got communism and socialism strong in those countries. So that then caused many of these ruthless dictatorships to rise up, and it caused a very strong sense of poverty and lack of care. An example of that is a missionary my parents know. He was over in Russia, and he actually talks about how while he was over there, they were doing a meeting, they were in a hotel, like one of the women just walked around the corner and peed on the floor because it was the government's property, they didn't care. There was that lack of care. And so when you didn't own anything, it doesn't matter. It's not yours, so why take care of it? So now that you know the history of socialism, this is what it does. It basically creates a mindless drone. You're not allowed to have an emotion towards it. You're not allowed to have your own opinion. You just do what the government tells you, and that's it. A good quote about socialism, especially today's society, is actually made by Ben Shapiro, and it says, "Socialism states that you owe me something simply because I exist. Capitalism, by contrast, results in a sort of reality-forced altruism. I may not want to help you, I may decide to you, but if I don't give you a product or service you want, I will starve. Voluntary exchange is more moral than forced redistribution. So what he's saying there is me working is a lot better than me giving you things just because you exist. Another example that is actually found in the God's Bible, in 2 Thessalonians 3:10, it says, "For even when we were with you, this we command you, that if any would not work, neither should they eat." Meaning that you still have to work to eat, but it's your own individual work, not based on everybody's team effort. So socialism also kills a nation's happiness and soul. Socialism promises you things for free, but later on causes you to give everything you make to someone that was just as lazy as you were. So the whole free college, free healthcare, well, you have to look at where's that going to come from? Where's the money to afford that going to come from? It's from people that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s that have already gotten out of college and all these other spots that now are working, and that's their life choices. And so they're taxed so heavily that they have to give it almost everything. And it evens out everything, but everybody's poor as well. It removes your freedom to believe or say what you want. Here in America, we have the First Amendment that protects that, and that was partially because at the time that it was written and why we fought for our freedom, England was a monarchy, which is very similar to socialism. However, it's ran by religion instead of a government. But same concept. There is no more I. It's just we. As in, we do this, we do that. There is no, well, I went to work today and the guy next to me slacked off. We all slacked off today. Socialism strips a nation's integrity and love for people or work. Even after it has rippling effects. An example of it is being Russia. They fought for their freedom from communism in the 1880s. But if you look, even today, they are still very socialistic in the sense of people are still, majority is still poor, the rich stay rich, and that's how it goes. There's no, well, I started on the streets, and 20 years down the road, I've invented something, and now I'm making money, or I have my own small business. And so that's where that leads into my last point, which is socialism, how socialism would affect America. Socialism would first remove everything our founding fathers fought for, the individual right to believe how you want and speak how you want. Again, I can say anything I want about Trump or when Obama was president or anything like that, and lo and behold, I'm still here. But if somebody like Stalin was in charge, I'd be dead or in prison. It will bring persecution towards race, religion, and gender. Women will go back to no voting, no land owning, none of that. More than likely, it would become very white supremacist again. And you'd have communism and socialism wipes out religion. They don't believe in it. And though I don't agree with gay marriage and abortions, it would even remove those rights that the left is so built on fighting for. Remove all that. However, why socialism would never work in America is that it was built upon the people that did something with their life through their own independent speaking and thinking. Americans beat the greatest empire at the time, arguably one of the greatest empires on the face of the planet throughout history. They established a truly free nation. They had great inventions like the light bulbs or even airplanes. If we had ran like a socialist country, you wouldn't have those inventions because it wouldn't be, well, let's see if we can fly. It'd be we have too much work to do that. There's no reason to focus on this. And they created equal opportunity for all people, black, white, man, or woman, anything you want, or however, whatever people believe now. And so that is why nowadays socialism wouldn't work here in America. All in all, socialism won't work outside of a controlled environment. We all have our own ideology and thinking. Throughout the history of socialism, you can see it just has caused problems and caused a lot of trouble to countries and really stripped them of their understanding and fundamental spirit behind them. You're removed of your individual rights. You just kind of become drones. And if we keep going this way, America will lose its individual freedom. And so that's all I've got. And so thank you for taking the time to listen to me on my speech about socialism.